Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. We'll start with the headlines. The commercial operations of the new passenger terminal at Muscat International Airport starts from the 20th of March. The Mars Simulation Project scientific team arrives in the Sultanate to conduct a series of experiments in the desert of Marmul. An Oman mining strategy is to be announced in March at the Tenfeed laboratories. Those are the headlines, and now for the news in details. The Ministry of Transport and Communications confirmed that the commercial operations of the new passenger terminal at Muscat International Airport will start from March 20th. The ministry said in a statement that all flights will be transferred to and depart from the current airport to the new airport at an appropriate time. The new airport is a focal point of communication with the world and an important step for the national economy in light of the growth witnessed by the civil aviation sector and other sectors. The operation of the new passenger terminal comes as a complement to the opening of the first phase of the airport project, which included the runway, the observation tower, and the meteorological and air navigation complex. A seminar on Mars simulation experiment in the Sultanate of Oman entitled Amadi 18 was held in Muscat yesterday to reveal the details of this global project. The event was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Mohammed bin Hamid al-Rumhi, Minister of Oil and Gas. Our reporter Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi was at the venue and made the following report.
The countdown to Mars simulation experiments in the Sultanate Amadi 18 has already started. With the arrival of the virtual astronauts, an orientation seminar was held to reveal the details of this international event, which Oman has been honored to organize in order to serve humanity.
We're standing here on behalf of about 200 people who are researchers who are behind this project, hailing from 25 nations. So this is a very international, very interdisciplinary and also intergenerational project. As it was briefly addressed before, we have the privilege of both having senior researchers, senior engineers and specialists involved.
At the allocated site in the desert of Marmul, which is considered one of the best places similar to the Red Planet's landscape, these experts will conduct around 20 experiments over a period of 4 weeks starting from February the 6th.
The experiments aim to explore how we can conduct research on a future Mars mission and learn how to do them properly to gain the maximum out of them.
As a field crew member, I will actually be a safety officer. I will shadow the analog astronauts during their experiments on the field. Be sure that if their combination has some problems and have some small fire or small sensors that is not detecting some thermal control and so on, I am in charge of just stopping the mission or find a way to solve this degraded case and solve the situation.
To get a closer insight of the importance of the project, a delegation of VIPs and representatives of several organizations concerned in the country will visit the site. School and university students from all governorates will also get a chance to be acquainted with the mission at the site in order to widen their horizons about space sciences.
We try to understand what can go wrong on a human mission to Mars. So we try to test all the procedures, the workflows that go into a manned Mars mission and try to see where the breaking points are and where the lessons learned are so that we don't make those mistakes when we do finally go on a human mission to Mars.
It is worth mentioning that the simulation experiments will be conducted in complete isolation, and the studies of this mission will be concluded on March the 1st. Hosting this prestigious mission will not only increase the Sultanate's visibility globally, but will also inspire the Omani youth to engage in scientific research related to space exploration.
for the Sultanate of Oman Television English News, صالح بخلفان الرحبي, Muscat.
The latest excavations conducted by the Ministry of Heritage and Culture at Qumeira village in the governorate of Dhahira unearthed an archaeological site of great historical and logistic importance on the ancient route of copper. An excavation team from New Zealand discovered stone buildings and decorated copper and silver pieces that date back to modern Stone Age. Archaeologists stressed the importance of the site as being on the ancient copper route and its relation to the civilization of Majan. The site represented a logistic hub in that time due to its strategic location that connects all main ancient land routes leading to the ports in the Gulf, Arabian Peninsula, and other ancient civilizations at that time. Minerals Development Oman company Medco has signed an agreement to explore new mining sites in the governorate of North Al Batna in order to stimulate the investments of gold and copper quarries in the Sultanate. The three-stage agreement, which is worth about $100 million, aims to explore two fields in the first and second concessions. The signing ceremony also revealed that Medco owns 40% and the other 60% is owned by Mawarid Mining Company. His Excellency Engineer Hilal bin Mohammed Al Busaidi, Chief Executive Officer of the General Authority for Mining, said that the Oman mining strategy is in its final stages of its completion. He added that the strategy will be announced in March at Tanfeed Laboratories. And still to come in our news bulletin. The Ministry of Health celebrates the graduation of 242 students from health institutes in the governorate of Muscat. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Explosions could be seen in northwestern Syria today as Turkey's military continued its cross-border operations to drive out Syrian Kurdish militia from Afrin. Meanwhile, Turkey's state-run news agency said at least 2 people had been wounded in a rocket attack from northern Syria on a Turkish border town. 2 rockets fired by Syrian Kurdish fighters in the enclave of Afrin struck a house and a garden wall in the town of Rehanli. 2 people were hospitalized. It was the latest in a string of rocket attacks on Rehanli and the Turkish border town of Kilis since 20th January, when Turkey's military cross-border operations began. EU's foreign policy chief Federica Mogherini today announced a new package of 42.5 million euros to support Palestinians, businesses, strengthening civil society, and provide access to water and energy. The package comes on top of several other packages of support, including 107 million euro provided to UNRWA, the UN agency working with the Palestinian refugees. Mogherini was speaking as the European Union and Norway hosted high-level talks on how to support the UNRWA following US President Donald Trump's decision to suspend some of its funding. The head of the UNRWA said yesterday that Russia, Kuwait, and 9 European countries have agreed to speed up their contributions to help fill a shortfall left by the crucial US funding. UNRWA, which serves some 5 million Palestinian refugees and their descendants, had a budget of over $1 billion last year. This covered long-running programs including education as well as emergency funds for crises such as the war in Syria. UK's Prime Minister Theresa May today called for expanding the strong and vital partnership between the United Kingdom and China. She was speaking in Beijing as part of her visit to the world's second-largest economy. Meeting with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, May referred to a golden era in relations between the two countries that London hopes will bring vast amounts of new job-creating investments from China's fast-growing global firms. Bolstering ties with China became more urgent after Britain voted in 2016 to leave the EU, compelling it to forge new trade agreements outside of the 28-nation bloc. British exports to China are up 60% since 2010, and China is expected to be one of the UK's biggest foreign investors by 2020. A bus hit a slope and got stuck off the road in Moscow this morning due to heavy snowfall and difficult driving conditions. As a result of the accident, one passenger was injured. It was the second bus accident in Moscow in the last 24 hours, as 6 inches of snow has covered the streets of the Russian capital. The snowfall, which created a long-awaited winter wonderland for Muscovites, at the same time created loads of work for communal workers and chaos for the city's commuters, many of whom spend more than usual in traffic. According to forecasts, snowfalls and blizzards will continue in Moscow through the next several days, with temperatures dropping down to -8 degrees Celsius during the day and -13 degrees Celsius at night. Italians fed up with the country's lousy postal service may now have found a culprit. Police said they discovered nearly half a ton of undelivered mail in a rogue postman's garage. The postal police said the 573-kilogram stash in the Vincenza garage of the 56-year-old postman was the biggest seizure of mail ever undertaken in Italy. The missing mail had been collecting for the past 8 years and included utility bills, bank statements, old phone books, and political propaganda mailings from the 2010 regional elections. Police were tipped off when volunteers from a recycling center reported receiving 25 big yellow containers from the postal service with mail inside them. The postal police say the mail will now be delivered to its rightful owners a few years late. And now back to some more local news. The Royal Oman Police arrested 10 people in a fraud case with telephones involved. The police said that the accused purportedly tell the victims that they won financial prizes through calling them, using fraudulent manifestations that enable them to have credit card data and get cash transfers. ROP warns the citizens and residents from being victims to such kind of electronic fraud through the internet or calls, and also protected themselves by not dealing with any unknown callers or accounts. The Research Council signed a cooperation agreement with Oman Air, the national carrier of the Sultanate. According to the agreement, Oman Air will support the Omani youth in various international research events. It came within the context of enhancing partnership between the Research Council and the private sector establishments in the field of building capabilities and in the field of research and developing the research field in the Sultanate. The Royal Army of Oman conducted the Omani-American joint exercise Fire Valley with the participation of units of the U.S. Marines. Sultanate of Oman's Artillery and Armed Forces Engineering Unit took part in the exercise with the air support from Royal Air Force of Oman. It was held in Rabkut Fields in the Governorate of Dhofar. It reflected the high level of training and qualification of the Royal Army of Oman's personnel in implementing joint missions. The exercise came as part of an annual training program which is conducted with friendly countries. In continuation of efforts exerted by all governmental and private bodies to provide job opportunities for job seekers, as approved by the Council of Ministers, 8,443 male and female citizens were employed in various private sector institutions during the period from the 3rd of December 17th to the 29th of January. The Ministry of Manpower confirms that the government is continuing to provide employment opportunities that have been approved in accordance with the plan currently being implemented to accommodate job seekers with various opportunities available in the private sector. Oman Chamber of Commerce and Industry inaugurated today the project of electronic transformation in order to facilitate procedures for affiliates and investors to complete their transactions easily. The project aims to uplift the Chamber's service through benefiting from information technology and communications and providing and facilitating services. The works on the project of Arrival and Departure Survey 2018 will start tomorrow, Thursday. The project is implemented by the National Statistics and Information Center in cooperation with the Ministry of Tourism and Royal Oman Police. The one-year survey came coinciding with the government's vision to develop the tourism sector by providing the data needed about this vital sector and best planning for its development. A graduation ceremony was held by the Ministry of Health for 242 male and female graduates of health institutes in the governorates of Muscat. They obtained basic and specialized diplomas and bachelor degrees. The graduates are a new addition to the health system in the Sultanate, and they will contribute to pushing forward the wheel of development in the country in the field of health. The majors of the graduates vary, including medical laboratory science, physiotherapy, and medical emergency. The Omani American Commercial Center officially declares its membership to the American Commercial Chamber in the Sultanate in a step to enhance the historical commercial relations that joined the Sultanate and the United States. The center, after its membership, became the biggest union at global level that included more than 3 million companies of different volumes in the economy sector. And now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of low clouds and fog late at night and early morning over the governorates of Sharqiyya and Wusta and the coastal areas of the Sea of Oman. Winds will be southerly to southeasterly light to moderate, and seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1 meter. This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The commercial operation of the new passenger terminal at Muscat International Airport starts from the 20th of March. The Mars Simulation Project scientific team arrives in the Sultanate to conduct a series of experiments in the desert of Marmoud. And Oman mining strategy is to be announced in March at the Tanfeed Laboratory. With that, we come to an end to tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, good night.